that they're employees that have been here from the very beginning. They've seen struggles that we've gone through in the 1970s and the 80s and the 90s. They've seen good times and bad times. They've seen progress that we've made in the last 10 years. But Captain Mattix and his brothers and several other people back in 1964 recognized the fact that there was really no recognized fire protection for the people in Hudson and northern Pasco County. This was at a time when there was no paid firefighters, and this was at a time when if you didn't do it for free and you didn't volunteer your time, people just didn't have these services. So when I'm talking about shaping an organization, I'm talking about looking at a man that actually put the mortar and the blocks together on the very first station back in 1964. Back in 1964, or in the 60s, this is what the equipment looked like in the Hudson Volunteer Fire Department. I just want to give you guys an idea of what we're talking about. Okay? The Mattixes, and along with other founders of that organization, built the department to the extent that we had equipment that looked like this in 1977 when we merged with the county. To such a degree that the county wanted this volunteer department and entered into an agreement which gave me the opportunity that I have today, because I came to work for the Hudson Fire Department in 1977, January of 77, and I was a volunteer in 76. So the work of these founders dealing or building an organization for the right reasons to start with, to provide a service to the citizens of Hudson and North Hudson, ended up in building a two-station department, one of which we use today in Embassy Hills by the number 35, to the extent that the county wanted it bad enough to where it was a premier merger. And we financially, we were, for the most part, had all of our equipment and our station paid off, and we made some deals with the county and arrangements and agreements that allowed us to come into the system, much because of people back in 1964 that had a vision. And it's an injustice that he retired on a medical retirement and we didn't have that opportunity to thank him for his service. So like we do with everybody else who puts that kind of tenure into this organization, we're going to issue today a Distinguished Service Award to Stephen Mattix, Captain, in recognition of over 26 years of dedicated service to the citizens of Pasco County and your commitment to the Emergency Services Department, January 1st, 1974 to September 5th, 2000. And I congratulate you.
Thank you very much, Chief. I appreciate this. Waited a long time for this. I have, like the Chief said, I've officially retired about 10 years ago. So I just feel the last year or so ago I had some unfinished business to do before I say that's it. One thing I wanted to do, like Chief has said, I have a lot of the history of the Hudson Fire Department. It was one fire department that started. There were several volunteer fire departments, all good departments, all good men, volunteers. I can appreciate volunteer firemen. They're out there doing the same job that professional firefighters are doing, and they're doing it for free. And so I really like volunteer firemen. But so. One thing that I wanted to do, like I said, I have all the history of the Hudson. I wrote a book about Hudson Fire Department, and I've got one of the books I would like to present it to Chief LaPinto for the state, for the department here, and for your library. And I would like to give that to the department.
Very good. I thank you for this.
And then another thing that has always bothered me, that I would go on the internet and read, and you go on the internet and you see the history of the West Pasco Fire Department. All you got to do is put in history of Pasco County. You go on there and you see the history of the fire department. Well, you'll see in there, if you go on there, there's a lot about Newport Richey Fire Department. And you say, well, it's about Newport Richey Fire Department. But, and there was things, and they had everything in there, wasn't in order. They would have, like, in 1977 this happened, and in 1978 this happened. It would be a different department. Nothing was organized. And then it would say things about Hudson that wasn't true, and this bothered me a lot. That was the other thing. I guess I kind of figured I had like a bucket list. So the book was one thing, and then trying to get some of the things changed on the internet. And so I got a hold of, I think, the right people, Jeff Miller, and he does the history of everything in Pasco County. So if you go and you're looking for any history, just go to Pasco County history, and you'll see Jeff Miller. Well, this man knows what he's doing, but you have to prove to him that what you're talking about is factual. You just can't say, well, this happened, that happened, because he won't listen to you. So you have to prove to him what you're talking about. And I think I've done that. And so I've got a lot of things changed there. Now the fire department's all separate. And so they're each volunteer fire department, the history of them will be there. There's Hudson. If you go to Hudson, there'll be an article about Hudson, and there'll be a little thing that says click on for photos. Well, if you click on that for photos, you'll see about 30 photos of Hudson Fire Department, the early years. So this, I got that worked on. And then, so I'm glad to get that, and I think that's a good thing, because I think history of the fire department, I've always been a history buff for years, and I've talked to Chief LaPinto about the history of Pasco County Fire Service, and you all have a history, and it didn't start, your history didn't start in 74 or whatever. It started many years in like 1920 of when the first fire departments in Pasco County. That's the history of this department, not 1974. So it's just like Philadelphia and the other departments. You take a big department like Philadelphia, it started out in there was 20 different fire departments there, but then whenever, you know, so each one had a little area in Philadelphia. But now today it's one big city department. Well, that's the way Pasco is. Pasco Fire Service is now just about taking over the whole county, which is good. The service is better and everything, but you have to know, you got to know where you've been before you know where you're going. And so I'm glad to see that Chief LaPinto takes such an interest in the past, and I'm proud of what Chief LaPinto has done. He came from Hudson, and I'm very proud that he got to where he is, and I think he's a good man. Thank you.